Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video. My name is Sophia and I operate Sand Me Down Designs out of Missouri City, Texas. This video I am super excited about because you will be following along on my journey to transform my challenge piece for the Ivy Lane Interiors 2025 challenge. Lisa over at Ivy Lane Designs hosts a challenge twice a year. She gives us a theme or a task, puts a bunch of interested furniture flippers in a group. We get to learn from each other and collaborate, and it's a wonderful opportunity for a flipper. Not to mention that there are amazing prizes. So at the end, she will pick out the top 3, and viewers get to vote on their favorite. So let me show you the piece. Here it is in all of its 80s glory. So obviously this is a dresser set, long dresser, including the 2 nightstands. It is a faux bamboo cheap furniture set. The brand name is Leah, the Furniture People. From the little research I did, that seemed to be a brand that was featured on sites like Wayfair. So not super high quality. Lots of MDF, unfortunately, lots of particle board, laminate top, and I think the only actual wood-esque features of this entire dresser were the faux bamboo details and the drawer sides and bottoms. So overall, this set is in pretty good shape. I know that there are 2 drawers that are missing rails. Overall, no big nicks or dents to fill in anywhere that I can see as of yet. It is a very, very dirty set. And I actually picked this up on Facebook Marketplace from a reseller in the Houston area. I did pay up for it a little bit. I was a little disappointed with the quality when I arrived, but finding a set with matching nightstands in my area is really, really hard, and you can actually make a pretty decent profit. So I decided it was worth the risk to pay up and brought it home. And lo and behold, Lisa announced her furniture challenge for October. So I decided that this was going to be my entry. Regarding the challenge itself, we have 2 weeks to complete it. The task of the challenge is to find a piece of furniture that was made in the 80s all the way up to current and give it the biggest transformation possible. So that is what I'm hoping to do with this. Let's get started. I knew I wanted to keep this existing hardware. It was cheaply made, but it was brass. So I tested it. It was non-magnetic. It would have been a really challenging task to find bamboo-inspired handles on such short notice without having to fill the holes and do a lot of extra work. So I knew I was keeping the hardware. I went ahead and removed it and got to cleaning the piece. Whenever I am dealing with matching nightstands, I like to label each nightstand a number. So number 1, number 2, and then the drawers within each nightstand would be 1.1, 1.2, and then 2.1, 2.2. For some reason, that makes sense in my head, not so much when I speak it out loud, but that's what you see me doing here, just to keep everything organized. I, of course, also number all of the drawers of the dresser as well. Once all of the drawers were numbered and put off to the side, I started cleaning, and this took quite a while. At first, I had to vacuum out all of the dust and lint and God knows what else was in there. The inside of both the nightstands and the dresser was caked with this very fine white powder. I'm assuming it was baby powder or talcum powder, but it was everywhere. So this piece was really difficult to clean. It took me a long, long time. And I also wanted to be careful to not use copious amounts of water because I didn't want the MDF and the particle board to swell. So I used my Festool vacuum to clean out the solid debris from the inside and my simple green spray to clean the exterior as best I could. My next step was to prep the casings for primer, and I needed to scuff sand the laminate top first fairly aggressively because laminate is very slick. And most of the time, if you don't give it enough texture, primer will not adhere. So I believe I'm using an 80 grit here with my Surf Prep sander, making sure to move slow with intent and roughen up the surface as much as possible. The side panels were mainly particle board covered with a film of faux wood. So I needed to be a little bit more careful. I didn't want to bust through that exterior down to the particle board because that would leave the particle board exposed. I would run even more of a risk of having it swell as I apply primer and paint later. For the trim pieces, I just hand sanded those down with a 120 grit. The finish on there was really, really thin and brittle, so it was coming right off. Of course, everything I did for the dresser, I did twice more for the nightstands. Then I turned my attention to the 13 drawers that I had to deal with. So I lightly scuff sanded them. I was using a 120. Again, they had that same film faux wood coating as the side panels. So I needed to be very careful. And as I was scuff sanding the panels, I made sure to just kind of smoothen out the boxes of the drawers. They were a little rough overall, so I took the opportunity to give them a little love. I vacuumed up all of the sanding dust and I saw that one of the drawers I had busted through down to the MDF and I knew I couldn't leave that exposed. So my next step was to mix up a little Bondo and apply it over the exposed MDF, let it dry, sand it smooth. That way moisture wouldn't get trapped in there and swell the MDF. If you've never used Bondo before, it is a great any sort of large divots or imperfections in the wood. You mix the wood filler with the cream hardener and it immediately starts to react and harden. So you have to work really quickly. And if you have a lot to do, then I would just split it up into smaller batches. But it starts to harden within 3 minutes. And I would say in about 15 minutes, it's fully hardened. At that point, you can just sand it smooth. If you apply too much, it will take you a bit to sand it down. So just less is more with Bondo, I feel like. Better to have to apply multiple applications than just kind of waste time and sandpaper sanding it back. It is finally time to apply our first coat of primer. Now, because my project is mainly MDF and particle board, I knew I had to apply either an oil-based primer or a shellac-based primer to prevent the MDF and the particle board from absorbing water that would be in the water-based primer. So I deferred to my synthetic shellac through bin, which is actually a primer that I always use, and applied a very thin first coat of primer. That way I could spot any imperfections that I needed to further correct before my second coat of primer. So I like to use these little clear plastic baggies that you can line the container with before you strain in your product. And that makes cleanup a lot easier. You don't have to try to fully clean out perfectly the container because you could just empty whatever primer you have left in your liner back into the can and it is less of a headache. I loaded everything in my Super Finish Max home sprayer and got to work. Always test my spray pattern before I actually start spraying the piece just to make sure that I'm not getting too much product accidentally spraying onto my piece. You want a light to medium, closer to medium flow. Too much product will drip. Too little product is just not enough coverage and you'll have to do many more coats. I wanted to leave this in real time just so you guys get a sense for the speed at which this is really happening. Now, I think I spray a bit faster than some other furniture flippers that I've seen on YouTube. So it might just be a personal preference thing, but I think I panic and I have this fear of drips and pooling. So I like to keep it moving. And I am always going for about a 50% overlap on my passes. After my first coat of primer was dry, I took my very worn down sponge abrasive pad. It's probably like a 600 grit at this point, and did a light sand just to knock back any debris that may have landed on the piece. After the first coat of primer is a really good time to assess what further corrections need to be done. So I noticed a little chip in the trim that I was pointing to, and a little extra drip from the primer that needed to be fully sanded back. So again, just making any corrections so you get that buttery smooth finish in the end. For smaller corrections like that, I like to use Bondo's glazing and spot putty. It does not dry as fast as the Bondo wood filler. It also is runnier and it's easier to press into some of the tighter crevices and spots that you need to fill. Overall, this piece didn't need too much glazing putty, thankfully, so this was a pretty quick process. After that's fully hardened, you can go back and sand it smooth, and then you are ready for your second coat of primer. Let me walk you through my vision for this set. So, what I plan to do with it is paint the bodies of the dresser and the nightstands and the drawer panels a matte finish. The color I have chosen is Black Magic by Sherwin-Williams, and this is in their Emerald line because they do not unfortunately offer a matte in their trim enamel, which is my favorite. So I am spraying the first application of matte Black Magic. And where the faux bamboo trim is, I plan to also do Black Magic, but in a high gloss sheen to get that contrast. So it's basically high gloss on matte Black Magic. After the second coat of matte paint has fully dried, I am going to apply a matte top coat just to seal that in and protect it. And I ended up doing 2 layers of the top coat. The top coat I always like to use is Varathane's Triple Thick. Comes in all kinds of different finishes, and it's never led me astray so far. I also have links to all the products I use in the comments below, so if you are interested in any of the links, I do earn a small commission off of your purchases at no cost to you. One last thing I wanted to mention about the top coat is with black color, sometimes your top coat can get streaky. So what I did was when I dumped out the paint that I hadn't used, in the same container without washing it out, I just added the top coat and mixed it in. If you tint your top coat to the paint color that you're using, you will get fewer streaks, if any. After the matte paint had fully dried and it had been dry for a few days, I needed to tape that out and get to work on painting the high gloss finish on the trim work. Meticulously taping this out did take me about 2 days. Now, at the beginning of the video, you heard me say that my goal was to finish this whole set in 1 week, and I was already at a week and a half. So I was really far behind, and this didn't help. It was finally time to spray the high gloss Black Magic paint. I have never used this Sherwin-Williams line before. It was recommended to me by the representative at my local store. So I went ahead and purchased it, tested out the spray pattern, seemed to be spraying beautifully, and I could already tell it was a fairly high gloss sheen. With all of the spraying excitement, I forgot that I had the hardware in a vinegar water bath for like 2 days. So you could see it did form a layer of scum at the top. This stuff was dirty. So I wanted to see how clean I could get it. I wasn't super optimistic, but like I said, it was brass. So I wanted to try and I knew I was going to keep it anyway. I got to scraping it off and flakes of dirt and grime were just falling off of these handles. I have actually never seen that before. Despite all of the scrubbing and the soak, the brass was pitted in certain areas, and I could not get that dirt out of there. So it was impossible to get these looking as pristine as I wanted to. So I did end up spraying them a little bit later on. For the spray paint, I use Rust-Oleum's metallic in gold, and I really like this stuff. There have been several other sprays in gold colors that I have tried, and I've never really been satisfied with them, but this sprayed really nicely. It did not look dull, it didn't look fake, so I was a fan of this. I finally feel like I'm getting somewhere in this build. So this is the second application of the high gloss paint on the trim pieces. Now you all know I'm a fan of sanding between coats of paint, but when I tried to sand the high gloss first coat, it seemed to just make it dull and it wasn't making it any more smooth to the touch. So I decided against it and just sprayed. This is the front apron of the dresser. And you can see that the MDF there has lifted a little bit. I did notice this at the outset, but I thought maybe with paint I could just cover it up. However, the paint was just absorbing into the MDF, which I should have foreseen anyway. And what I wanted to do was add a piece of trim there to make it look more tidy. So I went to Home Depot, got a little piece of trim. I think it was quarter round and it was pine already primed. I cut it to size, glued it, and painted it with alongside the rest of the dresser. While the paint was drying, I took that opportunity to brighten up the drawers a little bit. I used wax to liven up the wood on the outside, and I did go ahead and line all the drawers. Some of them had sort of waxy buildup, maybe lotion that had leaked out. It was hard to get them looking like I wanted. So I decided to go ahead and line all of them. All right, it was time to top coat the high gloss with gloss top coat. So I decided the easiest approach would be to put the drawers back into the dressers and the nightstands and then just top coat that way because the drawer panels were still masked off. I did end up doing another 2 coats of the high gloss top coat. Okay, moment of truth. I am peeling back the masking tape and the paper, hopefully getting clean lines, and my heart just sank. The drawers to the nightstands did okay. There was some peeling that had happened on the mat with the matte paint at the corners, so I thought, okay, I can just touch that up. But when I started peeling back the dresser drawers, the tape was peeling off sheets of paint. So the primer, for whatever reason, did not adhere to the drawer fronts on the dresser. And my heart just sank because this was Thursday night. The project was due Saturday, my midnight, and I didn't know what to do, honestly. I didn't know if I wanted to even continue. I had myself a little pity party, but I knew I had to pivot. So, what I ended up thinking was I have some of the peel and stick wallpaper that I lined the interior of the drawers with. What about if I just cut some of that out and add that to the panels where the matte paint would have been? So, I tried that and it looked all right. I mean, it was definitely not my style and not the quality of work that I would like to be known for. But then I remembered I had some peel and stick wallpaper that was grass cloth texture that I had used on another project a few weeks ago on that little Thomasville green dresser. And I liked that wallpaper because it was textured. So I thought, okay, what about if I cut that out, put it in the panel of the drawer front and paint it black. So it would essentially look like a matte panel, but now it would even have a little bit of texture interest to it. So I tried both of them out and I put them side by side and I chose. At this point, I had run out of matte paint, so I really wanted to get an idea of what the final look would be. So I just decided to use the high gloss paint that I had just to get an idea of if this was even the direction that I wanted to go in. The two options, obviously, the black on black option was more in line with what I had envisioned in the first place. Okay, so I did decide to go with the grass cloth peel and stick wallpaper that I had. I unfortunately did not have enough left to cover the nightstand, so that is on order hopefully here today. I have one more day to finish this whole build. This is kind of what it's going to look like. So I say kind of because I brushed the high gloss black that's on the trim, and it does make it a little bit too sheeny. So I just went by Sherwin-Williams, got another can of the Emerald Matte Black Magic. So I'm going to start filling in those panels, let them dry, do a coat of matte top coat on them, and hopefully by that time, the remainder of the wallpaper has shown up so I can, whoops, there's my tripod, so I can finish with the nightstands. Fingers crossed. The moral of this story is always pivot, never give up. After the matte paint was dried, I had a little bit of black tinted matte top coat left, so I went ahead and brushed it over the drawer panels. Added the hardware and waited for the Amazon delivery. While I waited, I kept contemplating whether I should do some line work on the piece. I love doing line work. It has kind of become a little bit of a signature of mine, and I thought it needed something more. This was a biggest transformation challenge, and I didn't feel like the piece was all that transformed to be honest at this point. I was just about ready to be done with it anyway. So I was just playing around with some tape designs just to see if anything stood out to me. I did decide to go with the design that you'll see here in a second.
You've been out here for hours.
I'm not even sweating. Thank you, monkey.
Or you want? You haven't drank any of it.
I mean, I had some breakfast.
No, they didn't bring any. We had 3 cups of coffee. That's hydration.
You know, I come to a point in every project where I'm like, should I? And then usually I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, why did I think to do this? Like, why wouldn't I just be done? I never thought I'd say this, but let's look back at the before. This set was very yellow, outdated, cheaply made, and it really just needed new life. Faux Bamboo is having a moment right now. Of course, this is not a big name brand, but it had a lot of potential, and that's why I purchased it. So let's see what all of that work got us. I am pleased with it. Is it my favorite flip? No. Is it the flip that I am most proud of? No, but it came a long way from where it is, and I am definitely proud of myself for not quitting and throwing in the towel. If I do happen to place in the challenge, I will let you guys know in the next video or on Instagram or a short. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.